So these are some of the things that we have to look at. Okay. Do you know how to get funds to travel to Geneva for the review? There is an organization in Geneva that is called UPR Info. I don't know if you have engaged with them. They provide support to civil society organizations, sometimes 2 or 3. They pay for your travel, pay for your ticket, everything, for you to travel to Geneva to take part in what is called the UPR pre-session. In the pre-session, they are going to organize members of the diplomatic corps from so many countries, and then provide a platform for them to engage with civil society actors. So these are things that we have to discuss about. In terms of implementation, what plan do you have in terms of implementation as civil society actors? Do you think that once you have submitted your report, once the recommendations are out, how do you use the recommendations? Who do you engage with? These are things that we have to discuss. So if I have responded to your question, I just want to let you know that although you have submitted your report, the deadline was the 10th of September. We are not here because of that. Of October. It's not because of that. We have to look at other things that you have to do. All right. Do we have any other question? All right. I have a question to you. And I just want us to be honest and have a very candid conversation. How many of you in this room, before coming to this consultation, you have taken the time to look at the recommendations that emanated from the UPR third cycle? How many of you?
Right, so I just glanced over it.
You just glanced over it? No.
I printed it out, meaning to read it last night.
Which is a good thing, ma'am. Which is good. She printed it, is things. So these are some of the things that you have to look at. Yes, ma'am.
One thing is, if the country is behind it, does it mean that's the country that's suggesting?
Yes, that is a country. That is a country that proposed the recommendations, ma'am. All right, colleagues, any other questions or comment? Yes, please.
I know the UNCRC, and also reviewed for the council last year.
Yes.
That also fall within this.
All right, that's a very good question. They are separate, but they complement each other. The UNCRC, the Convention on the Right of the Child, is a treaty, and it has what is called a treaty monitoring body. So they have reviewed Namibia. But the amazing thing is that if you take the recommendations from the CRC and you take the recommendations from the UPR, you are going to see that they are speaking to each other. That is why when you have to use the recommendations, it is advisable that use the recommendations in a very holistic way. Don't go to the government with recommendations on the CRC, go to the government with recommendations on the UPR. Because you can cluster those recommendations under one broad thematic area, then you engage with the government. That these are the issues that has emanated from human rights mechanisms. The CRC, the UPR, the special procedures, the African human rights system, all of them, all these recommendations, they speak to same issues. All right, I will please suggest that we have a timekeeper. Can we please get a timekeeper, Edna? Because, yeah, please just be looking at the session and let us know whether we are behind or so. All right. So, colleagues, any comment? Any question? All right. If there is no comment or question, our next session is for us to hear from you how you prepared your report. We just want to know how the report was prepared. And there are some guiding questions which we just have to look at, and we also try to keep it open. How did you prepare the report? Who were those involved in the report? What was the methodology? What were the challenges? So can we please get some of the participants in the room that took part in that process? How many people in the room took part in the process? In addition to her, we have 2. Okay, there are 2. All right, so can we please hear from you? How did you prepare the report? Please. The microphone is in front of you, please.
Apologies if I keep speaking.
No, please go ahead.
So Positive Vibes Trust are part of an alliance, various alliances in Namibia with regard to SOGI issues, women in their diversity issues, and so on. This specific UPR was part of our commitment to an inclusive governance program that we are doing with UNDP. So we had a technical expert accompanying the process from UNDP and 4 or 5 organizations that are women-led and women-focused in terms of women in their diversity came together and looked at the content. So we also had to school ourselves on the content. It's something, one thing that I've learned around the current UPR is it's countries, member states that that do the evaluation of the country. So that was very refreshing to know. We looked, so the organizations were Positive Vibes Trust, Sister Namibia, Young Feminist Movement, Women's Leadership Center, and Pots of Hope. We look at the various areas in terms of timelines and key relevant areas for recommendations in the prior cycles. So just point of note, it's combating on torture and ill treatment, gender equality, to combat gender-based violence, protection of vulnerable groups, governance, anti-corruption and the rule of law, economic, social, cultural rights, international human rights mechanisms, human rights education, and so on. So we first had to school ourselves on the UPR process and what it stands for. After that, because there's like a gazillion recommendations by member states in different categories, we had to tease out the ones that relate to us in terms of SOGI rights, women's rights, and stuff like that, and what we want to concentrate on. And based on that, we needed to look at the contextual data in the country on women's rights, what the country has noted, what they agreed with, what they wanted to observe or rectify, and then look specifically on that threat and made a submission, a technical submission on various issues. From the SOGI independence visit to Namibia to the issues on CEDAW, equality, gender equality, and so on. So previous reports on CEDAW, CESCR, we also submitted previously, and what that looked like in terms of commitments that the country did, but has not observed, rectified, and stuff, but also new issues that are contentious. For example, the Civil Registration and Identification Act, the new amended Marriage Act that is excluding some same-sex partners, for example, but on the other hand, the Civil Registration Act that was enacted, both of them in 2024, how that is harmful to certain populations. We also looked at making government accountable, because we had to go to court to litigate the sodomy law, while there are certain commitments that Namibia was supposed to do. So it's very interesting to see what the countries have proposed and what Namibia has agreed with, and then what was not done and what is proposed. It needs to be contextual, it needs to be evidence-based, and yeah, that's what we did. Hope it's helpful.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Can we please hear from another colleague? Thank you so much for that.
Um, in in terms of methodology, to start with that. Okay, better. In terms of methodology, we focus on very specific issues that are relevant to our mandate, particularly issues around media freedom, digital rights, gender equality, and youth civic participation. We use a combination of desk research, desk-based analysis, key informant interviews with journalists and policymakers, and then consultations with civil society, especially with the Action Namibia Coalition, which is very involved in the campaign or amplification around issues of access to information in the country. Very central to our report in terms of methodology is that we cross-referenced government's 2021 national report and recent policy developments. So just in terms of the actual sections that we dealt with were media freedom and institutional independence, speaking here specifically about the independence of our state broadcaster, which is not a public service broadcaster, and the legislation that governs it. Also our Communications Regulatory Authority and its mandate. And these are also issues that emanated from the state report, but which we had amplified in our 2020 submission. We amplified the issue around the UN Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists, reference that in the context of Article 9 and 23 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We elaborated on those principles and then also aligned that with practice within accepted UPR obligations. The next section that we dealt with was freedom of expression and whistleblower protection. Those laws have been in place since 2017 and have yet not been operationalized, and it's very, very important in terms of issues around, especially in the context of Namibia, oversight of the extractive industries. Then we dealt with the issue of access to information. And we've got a law promulgated in 2022, not yet operationalized. Then issues of privacy, surveillance, and data protection, and digital rights inclusion and online safety, and then gender equality and youth participation, access to justice and governance. Those are the subsections and issues. Then we ended with consolidated recommendations, again, cross-referencing our recommendations with statements from the recommendations made to government, and we added an annexure looking at our recommendations, the responsible government entity and partners that should be implementing it. We proposed indicators and timeframes, and then also provided the UPR linkage from the previous cycle.
Perfect. No, thank you so much. Thank you, really appreciate it. I see that there's a hand there, please.
Thank you very much. Under the leadership of Mr. Uhuru Dempers, who is the director of the Desk for Social Development of ELCRN, as well as the coordinator of the Social Economic Justice of the Council of Churches in Namibia. We also were involved in the UPR, and we have done this through the support of the Lutheran World Federation. We looked at, or rather we focused on land reform, housing, health, social protection, indigenous minorities, the status of Ombudsman's office, access to information, as was also done there, whistleblower protection, the legal status of socioeconomic and cultural rights. So in terms of our methodology, the first thing that we did is we had desktop review where we looked at all the documents that has to do with the process of the whole UPR issue. And the other thing that what we did is we had focus group discussions, and not only here central, we also had visits in the regions where we visited Ludred, Aus, Oranjemund, Bethany, Keetmanshoop, Tsumeb, Korenkuru, and Farm for Silas, where we then got ground information from the people. And the second thing that we did is we had a validation workshop from the information that we got from the regions, where we then had to validate the draft shadow report that we had